Welcome to Table for 92. Element number 26, iron. It's number 26 because it has exactly 26 protons within its nucleus. Today, for iron, we're cooking meat. That is all. Carbon and oxygen. Without those elements, we literally could not have existed. You need those for life as we know it. But I can't imagine the evolution of human culture without iron and its many forms. From prehistory to modern times, iron has always played a hugely important part in our species' existence, whether we knew it or not. For one thing, iron is a complete necessity for the human body. Our bodies use iron to make the protein hemoglobin that is responsible for carrying oxygen to all parts of the body. Without enough iron, the body becomes anemic. We know from archaeological evidence and even modern evidence that when people go from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to a sedentary farming lifestyle, all sorts of health issues come up, from getting more cavities to becoming shorter in stature. But iron anemia is one of those things that really has a negative impact on human health. Okay, for the meat, we're going from the highest iron content to the lowest. Here we have blood sausage or blood pudding, very high in iron because, well, they had blood to it. Then some white-tailed deer venison, backstrap, that I harvested last year. It's very lean, very high in iron, but not as much as the blood sausage. Almost no fat on it, so you gotta keep marinating it with olive oil so it doesn't dry out. Then some nice ribeyes, a couple sirloins, got a little less iron in it. This is just marinated in Montreal steak spice. I like that stuff. And then some pork chops with a hickory sea salt. And finally, lemon pepper chicken thighs with the lowest amount of iron. A general rule, the higher the blood content, the more iron. Just a beautiful rainbow of meats. And yes, iron is found in tons of fruits, grains, nuts, and vegetables. Brussels sprouts, pretty high in iron. Per 100 grams, it's about the same as the chicken. So we'll saute those Brussels sprouts to go with our meat. The asado is the best way to cook meat. Those folks down in the southern part of the Americas have perfected cooking meat. And the way is low and slow, just over the coals. I mean, it's just beautiful to look at. Abbreviated Fe from the Latin word for iron, ferrum. Surprisingly, considering how much iron is built into, well, everything, iron isn't really found in a pure state as a metal. There are like 3 places in the entire world we know of that has native iron, including Disco Island in Greenland, which is where I presume disco was invented, an island off the western coast of Greenland with a population of 1,100. That tracks. Even though we didn't have the ability to produce iron or any other metals until fairly recently, like in the last few thousand years, we were using iron oxides like they were going out of fashion for nearly 300,000 years. Ochre, an iron oxide, it's basically rust found in clays. And depending on the amount of iron found in it, it can be red, yellow, brown, purple, just a ton of colors. Some of the earliest ochre cave drawings have been found in East Africa, and yeah, go back almost 300,000 years. All those incredibly famous cave paintings in France at Lascaux are drawn with ochres, along with other minerals. We have to imagine our prehistoric ancestors were using ochres for some kinds of makeup as well. I mean, that stuff, it's not really in the archaeological record, it doesn't last, but I do just love imagining ancient people like sitting around and doing each other's makeup, whether it's like for a hunting trip or some kind of ceremony, or they're just bored and, want to make themselves feel pretty. I don't know. Either way, it's just one of those things that connects us to our long, ancient ancestors. Ancient peoples had no concept of individual elements as we do today. Iron would have simply been a part of the earth, not a singular substance. The idea of individual elements, that wouldn't be discovered until the late 1700s. Metals have been used by humans for a very long time. And, usually in archaeological sites in Europe, Asia, and Africa, you get the same kind of similar progression. People started with stone tools, then had copper, then figured out bronze, then finally iron. You find this in so many different sites. Like, you dig down through thousands of years of prehistory, and on the bottom layers, you find stone tools, then copper, then bronze, then iron. That is the basic framework we usually work with, but it does not always fit how civilizations progressed. The first people to discover how to extract iron through smelting were probably ancient peoples that lived in modern-day India, but it seems ancient peoples in modern-day Turkey were smelting iron very early as well. So yeah, our species has been around for a couple 100,000 years, probably longer, and we only figured out iron in the past few thousand years. Before the discovery of smelting iron, iron had been used for thousands of years before, but that iron was extraterrestrial in nature, not aliens. The first iron that would have been worked by people was extraterrestrial, from meteorites. Iron, like almost all the metals on the periodic table, is not really found in pure states. Yeah, you've got Disco Island in Greenland, but for the most part, on Earth, you're not gonna find like a nugget of pure iron, like you would a nugget of gold. The only way that's gonna happen is finding a chunk of metallic meteorites that have fallen to Earth. Coincidentally, also on Greenland, a huge meteorite fell about 10,000 years ago. It's now named the Cape York meteorite, or Anakito, but the thing is massive, weighs like 31 tons. So here you have a pretty different rate of technological advancement. Like local Inuit peoples in Greenland just happen to have a giant chunk of almost pure iron just sitting right there. So there is no need to figure out copper than bronze than iron. If you got it right there, then why not just start with that? But probably the most famous example of meteoric iron is a steel dagger found in King Tut's tomb. He was pharaoh during the late Bronze Age, so it was incredibly rare to have iron or steel products in that part of the world at that particular time. It's good to be king. Ooh, you can taste that iron. Thank you. See you next time. I think these are great educational videos and I'm extremely entertaining. So, smash that subscribe button.